Well, that surprised me. I was trying to warm the peg up. I'm doing a programme today on pace fishing on the pole, and I was just putting a little few pellets in, trying to get a few fish there, and I've hooked into a big fish within about 10 minutes of fishing. I've got it on now. Now today I'm at one of my favourite lakes. It's called Fields End Water. This particular lake is called the Pit, and it's pretty close to my hometown of March, not too far away, about 4 or 5 miles away, really in the heart of the Fens in Cambridgeshire. And today I'm after carp, really, big carp with paste. Paste is a great method for catching big fish. You can use quite a big hook because usually you've got a big bait on. You can use strong line because with big baits you can use stronger line. The fish are not quite so wary. As I say, I'm into this fish, roared off at first, and I'm into this fish quite early on, so I'm pleased really. It's always, when you come to make a programme, you always think, well, am I going to catch? What's going to happen? And straight away I'm into this fish. And it's a big fish. I can't just pull it in. The elastic's doing its job, but I can't just pull the fish in straight away. It's mid-June, so we're into what should be warm weather, but it's not. I wouldn't say it was really warm. Water temperature's still probably only about 50 degrees. It's lovely. So happy when I'm catching fish. I like just the pleasure of catching fish. And these are all good quality carp in here. They're all big fish. I've got strong elastic in there, really strong elastic. And still I can't get the fish in. Probably have to break down in a minute. One more joint. Oh. Just trying to get the fish up. Fighting hard with it. I should think it's probably 6 pounds. I just caught a flash of it. It's a mirror carp. One of a special type of mirror carp that they have in this lake. Beautiful fish. You think you've got it. Just get it to take a breath. I thought I'd got it and then it's... Oh. And then it's gone. There it comes. What a start. Oh, that was easy. Only about my 3rd or 4th drop in with a piece of paste. Just shows you how effective paste can be. And the hook, I'll show you the hook. I've got a really big hook on a size 12. I'll run through that in a moment, but you can see the hook just in its lip there. We try and show that fish to camera. It's a lovely big fish. I'm sitting over the water, so if it drops it'll go in, but probably about 5 pounds. It's a mirror carp. Look at that line of scales along the top. And then there's sort of a greyish looking fish, but beautiful conditions. See the big, oh, you can always tell when they're going to flick. See the big barbules hanging down from its mouth, beautiful eyes, lovely fish, and then the orange tail, look, right at the bottom half is orange, tinged. Really hard fighting carp. Let's hope it's the first of many. In this lake there are some small fish, roach and such like, so I've decided to put some feed in, 6mm pellets, quite large pellets if you look at them. 6mm, they're hard. I've tried to make it so the roach won't eat them, you know, and there's something left for the carp. If you're somewhere where there's no roach, you can feed 4mm in this same sort. These are Vandenine carp pellets, and you can use smaller ones if there's no roach, but here there's roach that can affect it. So a good hard pellet, and then I'm fishing paste over the top. I'll show you how I started off the swim. What I did was, I'll put a few more in. With the big cup, I've plumbed up, and I'll run through that again later, but I've plumbed up and worked out where I'm going to fish. The cupping kit is exactly the same length. If you look at that, it's exactly the same length as the kit that I'm using. So that when I pop pellets in, they'll go exactly where I'm going to fish. Now I'm going to put some of these, like a bed of these 6mm fish meal carp pellets. Put about half a cup in there. I've already put some in, so I don't want to quite overdo it yet, but a big carp can consume those with no problem. What I'm trying to do is eliminate the smaller fish and leave some bait for the bigger fish. Now I've picked a line, and I'm fishing somewhere about 10 metres distance, and I've picked a line, a marker, on the far bank, so I will keep going back to that same line every time, so I know where I've fed. And there I'm going to pot those, just sprinkle those about a bit. Don't worry about making a little bit of noise. The carp respond to those little plops of the feed going in. That's how I started when I warmed the swim up. I just put half a pot in, 2 or 3 casts, and then the float went. Now we're fishing with paste, and I'm using one of my favourite pastes, which is a bait tech one called Special G. The ground bait is Special G, and you don't have to do anything to it. I just mix it with oil, but once again, I'll run through that in a moment. So it's a greeny coloured paste, fairly stiff today because, once again, there's a lot of small fish here that I want to eliminate. Now I've got a big hook on here, just so you could see it in that fish's mouth, couldn't you? And paste being fairly soft, it's better if you use a small pot on the end of your pole just to put the paste in, like that. So the paste is in the pot, so when you ship out, it won't be dragged off by the water as you go out. And then also, a few of these pots are great for this. 10 or 12 of those 6mm pellets going in every time, so you gradually build your swim up through the course of the day. Remember your marker. As you go out, you don't have to worry about it coming off the hook because it's in the little pot. Go to your marker again if there's that bed of feed, and then just drop them all on your float. Bump, in it goes. That float is undershotted slightly, and you'll see when the paste, and I've plumbed it almost exact depth, and you'll see when the paste takes up, it pulls the float down. Pulls the float right down. If the paste comes off the hook, then the float will come up. Undershotting means you haven't put sufficient shot on the float to sort of bring that bristle right down. And if you plumb the depth exact, there's a little dig there, there's fish there, but could be roach. There is a few small. Once a big carp move in, then they push the roach out, but it usually takes, I didn't expect to catch that fish so early. There, did you see the float came up? That means the paste has gone, either a small roach has knocked it off. If you set that float up exactly to depth with shotting, you wouldn't know when the paste come off. If I go too deep, the paste is quite heavy, so if I go too deep, the paste would pull the float under, so I know that I'm exactly, in fact you use your paste really as like a plummet. I know I'm exactly on depth, just touching bottom. If the float comes up and stays up, or if it comes up and then whizzes off, then it's a bite, but if it just comes up and stays up, it means that a small fish the paste has dissolved, a small fish has taken it. It's sort of a pretty active method, this. You have to be doing it all the time. You can't sit there for 2 or 3 hours on one piece of paste. If you are, your paste is much too heavy and too solid. It wants to be really soft and dissolve. It wants to dissolve and have small pieces and smells coming off it while you fish. So let's do that again. You see how I baited up? Ever so easy to bait up, and then out to the same spot. Trying to build up this swim as the day goes on. A few pellets to hold the fish there as well. Hold the bigger fish. Look, see how the float's up in the air, and you'll see it will just settle now. See it? That last little pull down was the paste just taking up and settling on the bottom. So now if I get a bite, it will go under. Sometimes it will lift up if the bait disappears, if it goes off the hook. Oof, that was a bite and I missed it. It was probably a roach. If it's a carp, you usually hit it. I've made this paste fairly stiff, so it's because of these small fish here. And it's so easy, you just pick out a small piece. You can vary the size throughout the day. It depends on what size hook you're on. I'm on a size 12, and just pick out a piece that you'd think, yeah, that might be the right size, and just push your hook in it. If you then just mould it round with your fingers, I usually like to elongate it a little bit. Mould it round with your fingers, and there. And that's fairly solid. Drop that in the pot. Make sure you leave your line hanging over there. I missed that bite, so let's just go out and see if we can get another one now. And usually if it's a missed bite, it will be a small fish. And as I said, once it fills up with big carp, then they just push those roach. The roach just disappear. I love the way this float works, just depending on the weight of the paste. If I go into too deep a water, the float will go under, so I'll know that I'm at the wrong depth. But this way, picking the marker, dropping the bait in, and you'll see that last little bit, you'll see the float shoot down there, just as the paste takes up. Now the paste is resting on the bottom, just touching. Carp seem to love paste. I think it's because it's so soft. It's a big, soft bait which they can suck in. If you think about it, that paste there will be dissolving, little bits will be coming off it. They just suck it straight in as if they're feeding on ground bait. And if you can see how the float is settled right down, the first signs of a fish will be the little bit of movement there. There was a little tiny movement there. The good thing is if it doesn't get attacked too much, I know that there's a big fish there. The fact that the roach have got out of the way. The paste is still on. You have to be confident that your paste is still on the hook. Float is still down. See that shot up then? It might have been a fish. No, a fish knocked it then. Oh, another fish. Second one of the day. It doesn't feel like a massive fish, but just saw it. I think it's a big crucian carp. Just proves that anything will take this bait. But the gear I've got on is so strong for this type of fishing. Oh yeah, lovely crucian. Just hooked in the lip. Look at that. See the hook just hooked. That's probably about £2, but it were no match. Oh, the hook's just pulled out. Beautiful crucian carp. But it was no match for this gear. Look at that. I love these fish. Crucian carp, about £2. Took that big lump of green paste. This is my favourite paste mix. It's from Bait Tech. It's called Special G, and it's just ground green trout pellets, carp pellets. It's a sort of like a fish meal flavour. So you put the dried contents into a tub, and then I usually like to add some liquid pellet, some oily, just to create more of a smell, plus water. If you just mix it around with your hands and start off with a stiffish mix, and then if you think the more water you add, then the softer it gets. Just be careful how much you put in. And already it's almost perfect. It's really quick, that oil helps. Beautiful smell. But already, as quick as that, it'll dry out a little bit, and I'll just add a touch more water. And that's virtually ready to use, as easy as that. Special G, and then some liquid pellet. And when there's just big fish, then I use it really soft and wet and sloppy. Today I'm just using it a little bit stiffer. The other one I like to use, which is another easy one, if you take 2 mil fish meal carp pellets, these are Vandenine again, 2 mil, they're the smallest, they're the easiest to do. Just put a few of those in a bait tub. And quite often you're feeding with these pellets, so this is exactly the same as you're feeding. A little bit of liquid in there again, not too much. And then add water and soak those pellets. It takes a little bit longer. You've got to add water, let it soak into the pellets, and then mould it. These pellets are fairly hard, so it usually takes, I usually leave it soaking for 10 minutes. See how it feels, and then add more water if I need to. But this, if you think about it, it's the same recipe as you're actually feeding, so, but you just put it into just leave that to soak a bit, and that'll be perfect, I think. Just takes a little while for them to soften up. Once they're soft, just mould them into a ball and put them on the hook. It's as easy as that. But once again, that is a fish meal pellet, the same as we're using with the green. It's a fish meal green pellet. It's the same thing, but you just get hold of the pellets you're using, soak them, and then leave them for 10 minutes, and you can mould them into a ball. I'll leave them and I'll put them on the hook later. That's how easy it is. But I like to experiment with different sorts of pastes and different, you know, sort of sometimes make it a little bit stiffer, sometimes softer. At the moment, now that last fish was a crucian, a smallish fish. Oh, £2, quite a big fish really, but big carp like, sometimes we'll take it stiffer. Hold a nice sized piece on the hook. Don't like to leave it too long without feeding. The fish soon take that bait and mop it up and go. And remember where you're fishing each time. Try to get that same spot. I've got the depth exactly set so that if I know if I go too deep or I go at the wrong angle, that float won't set properly. Then in. I love the way that you can see everything. You can see, you'll see in a moment, you'll see there you are, there's the paste hitting the bottom, just touching, and pulling the float down. Paste is not like maggots. When you've got maggots on the hook, you know they're going to stay on there, but with paste, if fish knock it and pull it, it soon comes off the hook. So you need to know. You really need to know when that paste is off the hook. You can imagine it's really sensitive because you've just got the weight of the paste just touching the bottom and holding the float down. So any fish that touches that bait, you'll see movement on the float, either pull down That last bite, it floats shot under. Oh, this feels a strange fish. doesn't feel like a carp. I don't know what it is. Just amazing, but good bite, wasn't it? Just shot straight under. Oh, well, it is. Flew off at the start. Oh, that is enormous. Well, I've never ever, just caught sight of it, I've never ever caught one of these on paste before. It must be the liquid pellet that's done it. That is a massive perch. Oh, specimen perchmen would love that. Well, I've never caught perch on paste before. That is an incredible fish. Look at that. That's got to be nearly 3 pounds. That is enormous. What a fantastic fish. Just on that, I suppose because of the fish meal. Let me just take the hook out and show it to camera. It's just fantastic coming out. It just shows you what you can catch. Even I can't believe it. On paste, a perch. Look at that enormous mouth. 3 pound perch on paste. It's turning out to be an interesting day, this. Let's have a look. I'll put this back and let's have a look at the rig that I'm using today. The hook I'm using today is seriously strong. Because I'm on pole and with strong elastic, the hook needs to be strong. And it's a Fox, it's a new one, it's called an extra strong match, carp match. Let me show you the packaging, those. Really, really nice hook, size 12, so big, strong hook that can't straighten. If you're using heavy elastics, if you use a hook that's too light, big carp will straighten it out, so you want a very, very strong hook. And I've tied it direct to some 0.20 millimetre line. It's a Fox match line and it's about 8 pound, just over 8 pound breaking strain. 8.5 pounds, so that's pretty strong. But I've tied it direct, so there's no hook length. And if you run along the rig, well, that last fish moved them shots a bit, that big perch. I've got a small number 9 stock lead, it's called, there. They're just like an elongated shot. I prefer these to normal shots. So that's probably about 6 inches from the hook, but basically the paste does all the... You don't really need a telltale shot because the paste does all the work on that. But if I move further up, I've got 2 more number 9 shot just there. Can you see them? 2 number 9. Probably there just over 12 inches. And then I've put a little Olivet on there, which is just sliding up and down. It's just sliding loose on the line, just laying there. That's taking most of the weight. That's about 0.4 of a gram, that Olivet. Now the float, and I mentioned earlier, was undershotted, which means I haven't got enough shot to sink that float. It's a special Fox match paste float. Big long bristle, that's important. See this big long bristle, very visible, very long. If it's too short, you'll find that you won't be able to get the shotting exactly right. A nice long bristle so that you can plumb the depth and get that so that bristle is just out of the water. Carbon stem. I've put a small piece of silicone over the top. This helps protect that eye. This is only balsa we're talking about here, so a big fish, if it tears off and the hook pulls free, the float flies back and that eye will pull out without that piece of silicone over the top. The float is 0.5 gram, about 0.5 gram, which is, you can fish slightly heavier than you normally would. So half to 1.5 grams, depending on your depth. I'm fishing about 4 foot of water, so 0.5 grams fine. And then up to here, where I've got an overhand loop to the connector. There's a connector there, and this is 2.8 hollow elastic. really strong, and I've got an adjustable bung on the back where I can tighten up even more if I need to. I love to use hollow elastic. It's a bit softer at the start, hollow elastic, but then it's got more power once the fish takes. So it's softer, it doesn't bump the fish in the beginning, but then you've got the power that you need to land a big fish. And this is a Fox. It's equivalent probably to about a number 20 elastic, so it's pretty strong. That's the rig. Fairly simple. As I say, I've tied direct so that there's no weak links. We are likely to hook a big fish, and your fine line is not so important. 020, 022, quite a heavy line. Don't worry about using it. You've got a big, if you can use a heavy bait, now that piece of paste is heavy, so if you can use a heavy bait, it means then you can use a thicker line. Fish are not so aware of line diameters. It's a white line anyway, so the fish can't see it so easily. All the time a few of those pellets. What are we going to hook next? That perch was fabulous, wasn't it? £3 perch on paste. That was incredible. Never had one on paste before. But probably the fish meal in the paste and the oil attracted that perch into the peg. I'm glad it, mind you, I hope it goes back, because it was probably scaring the little roach away that were pestering me. That's probably why it went quiet for roach. It's fascinating because you never know what you're going to hook. Look at that, see that paste just taken up, float, that's about perfect. Paste is settled on the bottom. You just never know what you're going to hook. And it's fairly still now, so I'm quite happy that there's probably not so many small roach there as there was in the beginning. I still can't believe that big fish, that big perch. That's, you know, some anglers would spend a year or 2 years trying to catch a specimen perch like that. Oh, I'll have to tell them all how to catch them now on paste. Big lumps of special paste for perch. That's sitting quite still now, that float, so I enjoy that. It's nice, the sun's out now. It's a bit of a cloudy day today, and at times the sun's out, then it goes back in. But it is June, it should be really warm now. That's quiet. Well, that didn't take long, did it? Oh, this one's going a bit. Just never know what I'm going to hook today. I'm so crucian carp, big perch. This is a proper carp, I think. Well, I think it is, unless there's any £6 perch in here. You can see that strong elastic doing its job, though. It's heavy, really heavy elastic. Controlling that fish. Just feels like quite a good carp, this one. Trying to keep it away, keep it out. Let the fish sort of wear itself down a bit before you get it in too close. I've got a big reed bed here to my right, and I'll soon dive in there if I'm not careful. You see what I mean about that elastic? It's soft at the start, but then there's the power now. That fish can't take that much more than that, unless it really wants to fly. Just let the elastic do its work as you ease the pole back onto the roller. You'd be amazed what size fish you can get in with this method. Just nice and gentle. Everything's taken this pace today. I think sometimes I unship. Like the elastic and the line finishes there, but sometimes with that elastic stretching right out, I've unshipped a joint back just to give myself a bit more control over the fish. I think it's another carp similar to the one I caught at the start. Ooh, oh, it might be a bit bigger. But because the equipment I'm using is so strong, that 020 line, 8-pound line, big hook, good strong hook, I've no fears of it breaking me. The only knot I've really got is the one that ties the hook and the one in the loop. It's lovely. They really, once they take this bait, because it's so soft, usually the hook goes in very, very easily. You just have to lift into the fish. Oh, it's big, beautiful. Yeah, it's bigger than the one we had at the start. That's a lovely fish. Can't get away though. Oh. It's a big fish day today. That's incredible. Oh. Just caught inside it. Let me try and get it up a bit. Get that hook out of it. That is a beautiful fish. Just can't see where its hook seems to have caught round it somewhere. Might just have to cut that line and then reset it up. You never like to damage the fish if it's too far down. Just sort of like the hook doubled up in its... Take that off. That's a big fish. That is a big fish, but look how that tackle controlled it though. Now that's good, the hook's just pulled out now. There. What a fish. Lovely. Probably 6 or 7 pound mirror carp. What a fight as well. We just don't know what we're going to catch next today, do we? Just slip him nicely back, he'll be away. I've made up a new rig. Because I was tying direct, I've had to make up a complete new rig. I couldn't just put a hook length on. And now I need to check the depth again to get it exactly right. And I can always have a rough idea what depth I was fishing at. I made that line a bit over length, look. If you see, there's a bit longer line there now. I made that a teeny bit over length, just so that I can adjust it. And I'll show you how I adjust it in a minute. So you've got your marker, put a plummet on. When you go out with the plummet, make sure you let the plummet settle dead below the pole tip. And then drop it slowly so you know it's dead below. Drop it down, down, down. Oh, that was a good guess. That wasn't far. See if I come in a bit closer, that's probably a little bit shallower there, look. There, it just hit there. As I come in, it's a little bit shallower. Not much of a shelf there, though. It's just gradually coming back. But I think I've got that depth. This is how you want to set it for when you're fishing paste. Almost dead depth. Maybe just could come down just a fraction, probably a quarter of an inch I'll take off of that depth. And I'll soon know when I put the paste on, you know, if it's too much, then I'll just shallow up, just go a little bit deeper. If it pulls the float down, I can go slightly deeper. So you can use the paste to give you the final setting. So let's just, I think it may have just been a teeny bit too deep, so I'll pull that down. Only a fraction. And then that line's too long, I just roughly did it. So, let me show you how to do an overhand loop. must use my teeth a lot with these connectors. They're quite tight. And we need the line to probably be from the float, I'm always guessing about 9 inches, I should think, about 9 inches, fairly close to the float. Now an overhand loop, if you double the line over, like that, fold it round your 2 fingers so you get a loop there. This little piece here, if you take that away from you and tuck it back through, this is called an overhand loop, figure of 8 overhand loop. So I take it away, tuck it back through. Most people tie a double granny knot. Now if you look at that, can you see how it's a number 8? If you can see it and it's like that, then you know it's perfect. Just wet it before you tighten it. And don't pull it tight. If you're going to hook a big fish, let the big fish pull it tight. If you tighten it up, it weakens it even more. But it's about a 95% knot strength. As long as you do it, a figure of 8 overhand loop. And you need that when you're fishing for any big fish. Trim that off. Make sure you put the line out of the way. Don't throw it in the water. And then clip it back on the connector. We've got the depth exactly set. Are the fish still there waiting for me? I'm just really enjoying this. It's just, sometimes when you're making programs, they're quite hard work, but it's just a pleasure to be out fishing and catching fish. These sort of fish. That was a lovely carp, wasn't it, that last one? Real big fish. Nice piece of paste. Remember they've got that lovely big hook. I'll put that size 12 hook, I've whipped that on again. Bury that completely so the fish, doesn't matter you're using a big hook because it's right in the middle of the paste. The fish can't see it, they can't even feel it because the paste far outweighs the hook. Remember, if ever you're fishing with a big bait, you can use a big hook. If you've got a big heavy bait on, don't worry about using a big hook. Fish just don't notice it. I've put an extra few of those 6mm pellets in because I had to make that rig up. It's been a little while since I last fed. Just hoping there's something there waiting for me, and I don't know what it will be. It's just, I'll soon know whether I've got the depth right. If that float goes right under, it means that. So there's the. You can imagine that big heavy piece of paste that will pull that float right under if I don't have it set right. Just hit the bottom. No, there it is. It's just set perfectly. Remember, the float is undershotted, so if the paste goes, it will just come up out of the water. We're dropping over those 6mm pellets and just waiting for the bite. Just waiting for a fish to start nudging it, a bit of movement. But it's sitting there quite. I'm happier when it's fairly still and settled. Probably means there's no little fish around there pestering and knocking at the soft paste. Feels like another good fish. So much power, these fish. But it's all about elastics, strong line, and then you can control these fish. Oh, just love it. I love the pleasure of playing these fish. Just get it. When the fish first runs, just let it run, leave it out there, sort of almost point the pole at it, let it pull as much elastic as possible. Once you feel it tiring a bit, then you can just, you don't have to put a lot of pressure in the fish, just ease the pole back carefully without putting too much pressure on. As soon as you feel it stop that first initial run, Let the elastic do the work. The elastic is a shock absorber. That stops the fish from breaking you. It's almost, if you tie all your knots right, like I showed you, that overhand loop, as long as you get that correct, the fish, they have a job to break 8 pound line. Just easing that back. Always big fish. Feels like another good fish. All on pace. It's a fabulous method. Unshipping that one extra section down. So I've got these reeds here to my right, so I want to make sure I keep the fish out a little bit. Then now I can put pressure on it. Once you get the fish in close, then you can start to put a little bit more pressure on it. And then try to tire it just as it's in front of you. Try to tire it, lift, get it to take that first gulp of air. As long as you've got balanced tackle, good strong elastic, strong line, big hook, then you'll be amazed the size of fish you can get out on a pole. And pace does catch you big fish. We've seen that today already. No idea what this is, and I like to get the first glimpse of the fish. This is a pleasure. You first hook the fish, and then the pleasure of, what is it? How big is it? It's really fighting hard now, but I'm confident in the tackle I'm using. Oh, I love it. Oh, another good mirror carp. Once you get it to the top, oh, look at the size of that. Another great fish. That is real. That is fat. That is really fat. I'll put just inside the mouth this one, so I can hopefully get my disgorger just inside there to unhook it. And leave it in the net while I'm doing it so that I don't damage the fish. Just inside the mouth. Lovely. Really swallowed that paste. There. Safely out without hurting the fish. What a day. Really are catching some big fish. Look how fat that one is. It's another one of these strange looking mirrors, this greyish look with the line of scales. It's a mirror carp, but look at that line of scales along the top. That is beautiful, real chunky fish, and what a fight. Look at that. You can see that mouth, how they suck in. That big ball of paste just like that, and take the paste in, and the hook as well. They don't know, of course, until you hook them. Let's have a look now at the elastic that I'm using today, the type of elastic and the strength and how you need to put it through your pole sections. This is the elastic that I'm using today. It's 2.8mm diameter. It's a hollow elastic. It's got a small hole through the middle. Always favour this type of elastic for carp fishing. The stretch rating is 20 plus, so it's equivalent to a normal standard 20. But to me, hollow elastics always seem to just stretch a bit more at the beginning, and then more power comes into them later. The hardest thing with hollow elastics is you need a fair if you look at that, the end of the pole there, I've actually taken the complete first section out of my pole and put a large internal bush there, so that's coming off the second section for that elastic, because it's big diameter to go through. And the connector, they're always difficult to tie these. Let's take that off there for a second. It's always difficult to tie these knots in this elastic. It needs to be, because of the connector, it needs to be quite a small knot. I'll just cut that off and I'll retie it, just show you how to do it. It's a simple knot, but it needs to be kept really small. Just cut that off. Take that out. Once you've threaded the elastic through the, I need just to trim that off at an angle, because it's so big, that elastic. You sometimes need to put a little bit of a taper on it, just to get it through the hole there. Once it's through, it's okay. Then all you need to do is just, it's almost like a half blood knot, except you only need 3 turns. 1, 2, 3 turns, that's all. Keep that knot really small, and then bring the elastic back through that piece of a loop. I usually wet it a little bit, and then if you pull it really tight, as you pull it really tight, so it really just, so it digs into itself. Elastic's not like normal line. As long as it digs into itself, you get a really, I'll trim that off there. Then you get a really small knot, and your connector then will push over the top quite easily. Push over the top and seal it. I'll just clip that. All you need to do then is clip that back on. So whenever you're fishing for big carp, use a hollow elastic. And this is a 20, but it still stretches, still stretched nicely on those perch and those crucians. So that's, and those crucian carp, it was perfect for that. And we're ready to catch another fish. And it's really good fishing with this paste today. So easy to use. Good sized piece of paste, plus those 6mm pellets. Just mould it a little bit in my hand, and then you just almost press the hook in it, and then mould the bait. In fact, the bigger and heavier the hook, the better the paste will hold in it. If you think about it, if you had a little tiny thin hook, it wouldn't hold so well, would it? So I like to use a big hook, the biggest possible, for paste fishing. 12 probably would be the smallest one I would use. Put a few more pellets in there, just to make sure we keep the carp in the swim. Those hard pellets are really doing the job of holding the fish. They're taking those, and while they're taking those, they come across this big lump of paste which they cannot resist. Just remember that undershotted float, so that, there, that's the important part. Nice long bristle on the float. And every time we're going back on the same spot, just watch for that paste to take up. There it is, just touch the bottom, look. Almost pulled the float under then at first, and then it came back up, so it's just touching the bottom. It's really sensitive, you can see everything that happens. We lifted a bit then. was into that fish straight away, but it's not a big fish, small fish I think this is. Probably feels like another one of those crucian carp. So effective though, getting the fish round. It's one of those days when I just don't know what I'm going to catch next. Yeah, it is, it's a crucian. Just caught a flash of that beautiful gold. There. If you look at the size, how did that get that big lump of paste in its mouth? Look. If you look at the size of that fish, just unhook it first, just hook through the lips. Look, it's only got a tiny mouth. Got that big lump of paste. Everything loves paste. This fish is really wriggling in my hand. It's hard to hold it to camera, this one. There. Smallish fish, only just over £1 pound, but still a good fish. Well, there's loads of action, so I'm going straight out again. Hopefully there'll be a bigger one there this time. And try and be as quick as you can to get the feed back on there. The fish will soon take that feed. It's probably what happens while I was chatting away. The carp come in, they mop up those pellets and they're gone again. Fill that right up. And as the fish feed more and more, then I usually put more and more pellets in. Just a lovely way to fish because you know exactly what's happening to your bait. And normally you hook into the fish. If a big fish takes it, you don't miss many bites. Because you've got a soft bait, the hook penetrates very, very easily. You can just pour your bait right by your float. There, almost, float almost goes under, look, just touching. While you wait for the next bite. And it sometimes takes a little while, depends how many fish are in the peg. Another fish. That one whizzed off. Feels like a good fish too. Amazing this. It's been one of those sort of days where fishing with a big lump of paste and you never know what you're going to catch. Big carp, crucians. But it just goes to show what you can catch when you're using this bait. It is a deadly... I'm only just about hanging on to this fish. It's a deadly, deadly bait. Just a nice, soft paste, easy to mix up. Mould it round the hook. Remember to use a big hook as well. And very important, undershot that float. So it's a paste that actually finally balances the float for you. And you see every movement. You can fish and you know you're on the right depth all the time, so you really fish it just about dead depth. It feels like another good fish. What a day. This will have to be the last fish. I've caught too many today. And these big ones take some time to get in. That powerful elastic working, it stopped the fish. As it roared off, it actually slows the fish up, and as long as the elastic stretches and doesn't, what we call bottom out, as long as it doesn't bottom out, then the fish cannot break you. It's only when the elastic bottoms out that fish can really break your line. But everything has worked perfectly today. And once again, I'm excited. I don't know what it is. Don't know how big it is. Feels like a good fish. But usually when you're fishing paste, they're usually big fish anyway. Normally they're good size. Just caught a glimpse of it then. It's a carp again. Big carp. Oh, did you see that tail come out of the water? So this, I love to start a program with a fish, and I love to end a program with a good fish. And this one seems a big fish to end on, just to show you what you can catch. Remember when you're using that paste, some liquid pellet in there, just to create an extra smell. If you're getting bothered with a lot of small fish, then make the paste a little bit stiffer. If it's a difficult day, then you can use very, very soft, almost liquid paste that just hangs on the hook, because that small cup on the end, that small pot, the fox pole pot, brilliant for feeding accurately right from the end of your pole. Been a strange sort of day weather-wise, a little bit of wind, some cloud coming over, then some sun. Look at these fish go. Oh, that is I don't know if it's the biggest fish or not, but it's a good fish. Oh. It's fighting harder in the net. Just hooked in the lip, perfect that one. Wow. What a fish and what a day. Let me show this to camera. There. Keep it over the net. There. Just shows you what you can catch with a pole and paste.